Hey everyone. Today we are in chapter 11 of the Old Testament book of Exodus. This chapter is just a short 10 verses and it's setting the stage for the 10th and final plague. As you read this chapter, there are a couple of things that I'd like to point out to you. And the first one is one that's a bit of a challenge that I'm not going to be able to answer completely. We see it at the beginning of verse 3. Now the Lord had caused the Egyptians to look favorably on the people of Israel. The Lord caused the Egyptians to look favorably. So it's as though the Lord was manipulating the way people think. And we see it again at the end of the chapter. Halfway through verse 10 it says, "But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he wouldn't let the Israelites leave the country." If the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, then it's the Lord who's responsible for the crisis. And this crisis in this final plague is going to result in the deaths of thousands of innocent people. So we have a problem here. Is God responsible? And couldn't God, if he has the power to manipulate the way people think, couldn't he just as easily soften Pharaoh's heart so that he would say, "Oh yeah, you guys go have a great day and take off"? No. I'm not going to answer this question completely because it's stumped people for thousands of years, but I will point this out. In the New Testament epistle of James, chapter 1, verses 13 and 14, James writes that we have to remember that God doesn't tempt any of us. That when we face temptations or when we choose to do evil, that's on us. Now, the Old Testament tends to give God credit for things that when we see people doing things we don't understand, we somehow, they connected it to God. But I can't believe that God, the God that we know who loves us and desires all of us to be at peace, would be responsible for causing the deaths of innocent people. No, in fact, this is definitely going to be all about Pharaoh, which brings me to the second thing I wanted to point out. Pharaoh is the one person in Egypt who believes himself to be a god. The rest of the people of Egypt don't think that. In fact, the rest of the people of Egypt, like the Israelites, are happy to let them go free. And in fact, at the beginning of the chapter, it says that they give them gold and silver because they want to give them gifts as they're getting ready to leave town. If we go back to verse 3 and pick up where we left off, it says that they considered Moses a very great man in the land of Egypt, and he was respected by Pharaoh's officials and the Egyptian people alike. So what we have here is Pharaoh, who is in direct opposition not only to God, but to everybody around him who are happy with the idea of letting the Israelites leave and go have their own land. And here I think might be the lesson for us. We can get caught up in the idea that we are God. That we, for a moment, are somehow in control of our own destiny. Now, it might not be as obvious as Pharaoh, who declares himself to be a deity, but sometimes we put ourselves in the place of God. We imagine ourselves to have control over our destinies in a way that we really don't. And when we find ourselves like Pharaoh in opposition with God's word, it's not going to work out well for us. It didn't work out well for Pharaoh, and I know if you've looked in your life and seen where you have chosen to go a direction other than the one that God has called you towards, that it probably hasn't gone so well for you. But when we do obey God, when we do receive his gifts of love and love him back, then we find ourselves moving and feeling the grace of God's presence in our lives, and we find that place of milk and honey where we live in peace. Now, peace might look different depending upon your circumstance, but it's all about where we are in our spiritual relationship with God. So here's my challenge for us today. That if you realize at times you're choosing your own path stubbornly in opposition to what you know God is calling you to, beware, bad things will happen. But if you choose to receive God's gift of love and to be obedient to his call in your life, then he will always lead you to green pastures and to that land of milk and honey. So go love God, share that love with others, and trust that he has a path for you that will bring you peace. Have a great day, everyone. If these devotional videos are helpful to you, subscribe to our channel and click the notification button so you know when we post a new video. And of course, please share them with others.